So I was in the west track of the Green Swamp, and mind you, Bigfoot is not my jam. It's not my deal. Usually, unless I'm with Mike. You know, my whole thing is bushcraft, survival, and just straight up backpacking. You know. So one time I went out into the Green Swamp, and I hiked out to camp, and not far, just a couple miles. It took me something like 35 minutes to hike to camp. I think it's 2.5 miles, something like that, to get to that campsite. And I'm there, and I'm super excited. I made fettuccine chicken Alfredo from like scratch. I brought chicken. I brought like Parmesan and like all this stuff. And like cooking was part of the reason why I was there. And so I made this big mound of food, and I ate every bit of it. It was delicious. And not even 10 minutes later, I went, uh-oh. And I went over to the side of my camp, and I barfed everywhere. Like, I didn't even feel sick. I ate too much, probably too much food, and then also too much dairy. And I just barfed everywhere. So when I sat down, I'm like, all right. I was like, I feel okay, but I don't want to have explosive diarrhea in the middle of the night. It's nighttime. Do I want to hike back to my car? You know, because it's not really that far. You know, I have no problem night hiking. And I was like, well, I don't know. So I was like, let me clean my camp up. And if I feel like leaving, you know, then I'll just pack the rest of it up and I'll go. And if I don't, then, you know, most of my packing is done for the morning. So I'm packing up and I'm doing stuff in and out of my tent, and I pop my knee. So my left knee's real bad. I pop it and blow it, spraying it, whatever you want to call it, all the time. So now I'm limping. You know, I tied it up and I have trekking poles. I'm like, okay, now I definitely have to leave, because if I'm going to have explosive diarrhea in the woods, I want to at least be able to squat, you know? So like, I got to go. Like, maybe I'm fine, but if I'm not, it's going to be a bad scene. So I pack the rest of the stuff up and I start hiking out. And after a few minutes, I realize something behind me is following me. And it's, you know, I'm on the Florida Trail, so I'm on a legit trail.
Oh, the Florida Trail?
Yeah, so whatever's following me is not on the trail. It's in the woods, like at my 45 behind me.
Oh, flanking you.
Yeah, flanking me, following me. And like, I would stop, and it would take like a step or two, and it would stop, and then I would go, and it would pick back up. And after like a mile or so, I stopped, and I turned around, and I clanked my trekking poles together, and I yelled like the toughest 1980s, you know, catchphrases you could think of, like, I'll rip your head off and skull. You don't know who you're messing with. Like, you don't even want a piece of this, son. You know, and that was it. It didn't follow me anymore. I didn't hear it walk away, but it didn't follow me anymore. I was like, that's right. And I turned around, I'm like, oh, thank God it didn't stop following me. You know, and like, I went to my car and I left. And I'm like, all right, well, we all know hogs aren't going to do that. Raccoons aren't going to do that.
Right.
There's really only, you know, if it was a panther, I wouldn't hear it. It would just have killed me. So there's only two options. It was either a bear or a Bigfoot. And like, I don't know which it was.
Where about on the Florida Trail was this?
On the west track of the Green Swamp.
Oh, the west track. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So
a lot of sightings over there.
But yeah, it was interesting, you know.